Marlins fans, and welcome to this edition of FOF Live presented by La Pop. That's LAPOP. And as always, you can check them out on Instagram, Twitter, and at their Doral location. And fellas, what a week it's been for the Marlins. It has not been great, to say the least. But we're going to recap all that, the future with the series, the deadline, and this guy right behind me who just signed his contract with the Fish. Right here. Not me. Right here.
You wish you signed that contract.
Actually, I would have gone slot value, Kevin. I would have gone slot value. All
I,
right.
I yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But before we get into all that, let me introduce everyone. Our panel, we have Mr. Kevin Barral, Eli Sussman, Isaac Kazoo, and our special guest, the man with the best takes in all of Twitter, Marcelo De Vivo, Mr. 12,600, indicated by his number below him. How are you doing today?
It's all good, Danny. All good. Everything's nice. I'm just hoping for the Marlins to start winning tomorrow against the weak Rockies team, and let's see them get back on track because last week has been miserable.
Yeah. And if you can count the number of the Marlins' losses this week on two hands, it's not good. And the way it started, obviously with the Orioles, we went over that, but the Cardinals, which was much more disappointing, just in terms because the Marlins did beat this team earlier in the season, and the Cardinals have indicated that they are sellers. This team is not playing for the playoffs; they're playing for 2024. And by the way that looks of it, it looks like they were looking to win the division by the way they beat the Marlins. Kevin, talk to me about this series. What happened with the Fish?
Yeah, it was a tough one. I think there's another way to put it. Very disappointing, given that Miami took 3 out of 4 against the Cardinals last time when they were here at Lone Depot. The first game was just not good. Miami had a lead for a good portion of the game. They gave it up. It was kind of a back and forth. Then that game too didn't look too competitive for them. I lie. It was pretty competitive for the most part. Miami kind of tacked on some runs towards the end there, as you could see. And then finally, that last game where Sandy just same old that we're seeing. He has one really shitty inning, and then after that, he looks pretty good. And that's exactly what happened in this game. And Miami made it pretty interesting at the end, but they couldn't get it going. It's pretty disappointing how they played. Nolan Arenado, as Isaac said, is officially a Marlins killer. He walked them off in one of the three, I believe it was the first game. And I lie, it was the second game. And they just didn't look good. Miami was not good offensively for the most part. The pitching struggled. It sucks that obviously it kind of shows you that this team needs a bat in the middle of the order, and Eli and Isaac spoke about that in Unfiltered today, and we mentioned a couple. Well, I think one name that really makes sense to bring, but aside from that, it shows you that not only do they need a bullpen arm, but they also need another big bat in the middle. Unlike the Orioles series, which I say kind of showed you they need a starting pitcher.
Yeah, just overall not great there. We could go a little bit into Sandy, but Isaac, I want you to talk to me about Eddie Cabrera, because I kind of watching his starts, it kind of felt like he was some sort of, you could say, the bright spot, something positive to look out of this series. How did you see Eddie in his start against the Cards?
That was probably of all 6 games. That was the most encouraging part of it. I think he was phenomenal for his first 5 innings. He was effectively wild. I would describe it. He walked a couple guys in that first inning, but unlike a lot of his starts in the first half, he was able to get right past it, strike guys out, and really manage his pitch count in a way that we haven't seen this year. So that was really great to see. We knew going in that it was going to be an 80, 85 pitch count for him. He went through 5. He went out for the 6th, gave up the home run, and then Skip quickly took him out. I thought he could have let them in a little bit, but all of these games are pretty much must win at this point. So I understand both sides of that one, but that was really encouraging to see because, as Kevin mentioned, Miami is going to need starting pitching. Miami is going to need innings eaten by their starting pitching. And we're getting to the point where Cabrera, Braxton, and Luzar are all reaching career highs in innings, and it's going to be really tough to sort of eat these innings up. And Cabrera, if he does his part, that'll be a big impact for Miami.
Yeah, Marcelo, just talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on this team maybe not this series, but them starting 0-6 since the All-Star break?
I think we need to give some more pop to the left side of the infield, probably at shortstop or at third base. You're more or less having no power coming from the 6 through 9 in the hole in the bats. So I think has to be one of the priorities. But mostly, even more than the starter, I think the bullpen help needs to come, and it's the cheapest one. So I think you need to get a righty, high leverage arm as soon as possible. Maybe not against Colorado because you hope they can sweep that one, but for Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Philly, and after the deadline, you're gonna need more bullpen help because neither Brazoban, Floro, or Chargois give you that much security, and that Nardi's coming back, but you're gonna need it. I was looking at a guy. Well, we can talk about that later probably, but yeah. I think the bullpen had how many blown saves? 3, 4 in this series. So yeah, we need bullpen help fast.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to mention really quickly before we get into more of the games, I want to talk about an individual player, and that's Luis Arias. This is a guy who, after he had 2 hits and that All-Star game, has kind of maybe shifted. He's kind of had up and down. He had that really great 4-hit game against Baltimore, but in the end, it really didn't matter in terms of the outcome for the Fish. What have you seen, Eli, from Luis Arias so far out since the All-Star break?
Yeah, let's see. The overall slash line is 296, a 310 on base percentage, and a 370 slugging. So well below average hitter overall during that span. As you said, 4 of those hits in one game against the Orioles. I think those hits were kind of meaningful. That was the one game against the Orioles that they really should have won, where they got out to that big lead. So I thought he looked fine there. And then he came up with he drove in runs in each of the 3 Cardinals games. I don't know if people realize that. He had 1 driven in each of those. And I think it was the one on Saturday that came in a pretty clutch spot to help extend the game into extra innings. So yeah, I'm not worried about him. I've always been skeptical about him chasing 400. I do think he's going to come down quite a bit in the second half compared to the first half, but he's still going to be almost an ideal leadoff guy. He's still going to be immensely valuable, and I am not worried about him whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the other thing to go on, just with some of the pitchers or the bullpen help, Isaac, your boy was traded for him. He had a couple homers, but on the Marlins way, AJ Puck. How have you seen him maybe since the All-Star break, and what would you go about maybe fine-tuning AJ Puck? Maybe if you had to take him out of the closer role, what would you do with Puck?
I think he has not been as dominant as he was in the first half, granted. And he has run into some tough luck in his blown saves during the second half of this season. He has given up some home runs. He gave one up to Jordan Walker. He gave one up to Christian Pache, which is crazy. He gave one up to Nolan Arenado, and all of them in really critical spots. Do I think Miami needs to change the closer position? No. I think he is still probably the one of, if not second best relief arm that Miami has in their bullpen, right behind Tanner Scott. And no, I don't think they should do any tinkering with that. I think that in the Cardinals case, in the game that he gave up the home run to Arenado, John Birdie sort of shit the bed a little bit, and they should have been out of the inning. But then again, you just can't. And I also think it was a managerial mistake to face Arenado to begin with. I think they made the right call in walking Goldie. And just facing Arenado just didn't make a lot of sense there. You had Wilson Contreras on deck. I know he had a hit in that ball game, but I think the managing as well as the defense behind him really let him down that day. So I don't think all of it is to blame on him, but I do think you're right, Mr. Daniel. If he continues to blow some saves, Tanner Scott is having a career season. He is one of the better relievers right now in baseball. Maybe you try him out again, but he sort of showed you that he struggles in the 9th inning, and it's a whole new ball game when you're throwing in the 9th versus the 8th. So it's a tough decision to make.
Yeah, with all that there, another thing to mention, we went by Sandy, Eddie. I think maybe to finish off this subject with the Cardinals, and we can go later on and what that 0-6 start truly means for the Fish. Jesus Luzardo. What have you guys seen from Luzardo's that game against the Cardinals? 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. Low strikeout. It's there, only going 4 innings. Kev, what did you see from Luzardo? And was that just maybe a one-off in terms of maybe his performance against St. Louis?
He's been kind of up and down. I would say since the All-Star break, there's times where he's looked really good, and then there's times where he hasn't. And that's, I guess, the easiest way to put it. Obviously, you said he kind of got knocked around in that start against the Cardinals. I'm trying to look for the final line here, but that was the first game out of the 3-game set, and it sucks to see Luzardo, kind of be a little shaky. He's gonna have a chance, I believe, to redeem himself against the Rockies now coming up this weekend. So it should be a good start for him, and it's going to be needed, obviously. Just not what you wanted to see from Luzardo against the Cardinals.
Marcelo, weren't you the one that had the theory about him tipping pitches in this one?
Yeah, I don't know if it was tipping, like clearly tipping, but they knew it was coming. Like you saw how many sliders he threw. He threw a couple good ones down in the zone, and they just spit at it. And I was like, man, I've never seen this happen to Luzardo, and that pitch is one of the best pitches in baseball, probably. And I think I got a little encouraged after that start from him because he did not have the slider, and only fastball changeup, and he got out of it. Yeah, he didn't pitch like really deep into the game, but 4 innings, two runs against an offense that hits lefties, and without his best pitch, man, I look at it on the bright side.
Yeah, look at that. Just one whiff on his slider when he throws 15 of them. And yeah, for him, it's an incredible pitch.
Yeah, that's a pitch that has like 40+% whiff rate normally. So to have only one, I think they saw something in him, or he was tipping or something. Because thing is, I didn't see him hang it either. So that's why they couldn't like take care of it. But I think they knew it was coming because they were all spitting at really good ones.
Yeah, and with this rotation, the way they played against the Cardinals, maybe with the exception of Eddie, how do you guys see this rotation going into the deadline? Are they worrying you guys, or are they worrying you maybe if they could continue it? Will they not be buyers by the time the deadline rolls around? How do you guys view this rotation able to maybe try to hold this team together up until August 1st?
You need to add a piece. You need to add a starter.
There's 4 names in here. You need to add a line. You need to add a 5th starter. They're missing one. They have 4 starters instead of 5. And I shouldn't speak for everybody. I think myself and several other people thought they could weather these next couple of weeks by going to a 4-man rotation because of all the off days they have coming up, including today, and then 2 more next week. They don't actually need a 5th starter. And yet it seems like they are sticking with a 5-spot model where they're planning to do a bullpen day during this upcoming Rockies series and perhaps moving forward, even though they only, they don't have anybody to fill that void. So it is a glaring hole right now. And even more so just moving forward, I don't think you can fully trust anybody in this rotation, Sandy included, the rest of this way. They need help. They need outside help just because Trevor is not going to be ready anytime soon. We know that Yuri, he's not coming back in the foreseeable future. We do expect him back, though, eventually. And in the meantime, they face a pretty tough schedule as it is. So I think every single turn of the rotation that goes by without them adding outside help is going to come back to hurt them.
Yep.
Yeah. We could go into a little bit of the deadline talk. And we have seen movement from the deadline. Speaking of the Orioles, just trading for Shintaro Fujinami, who might have maybe worked in the Marlins bullpen. Who knows? But Kevin, what is your number one wish list for the Marlins in terms of their position? What's the number one that you think or the Marlins do need?
Starting pitcher. I think that's the number one right now. As Eli said, they're missing a 5th line, and I think you need a starting pitcher here. You need it. I mean, as Eli said, injuries right now are not looking good for Miami in terms of that. Johnny Cueto isn't going to be a starter anytime soon with this team. Edward Cabrera, who knows how consistent he will be moving forward. He had a little up and down first half for Miami. He looked really good in the Cardinals game, but aside from that, we'll see. I think you need to go out there and add a pitcher. And Eli and Isaac and I were talking about that today. And I mentioned Marcus Stroman. I think that makes a lot of sense for Miami. How much, obviously, Miami, I would love to see them go after Cody Bellinger as well. If you're looking at the same team, we spoke about that today. I would love to see Miami maybe make a move for Jordan Montgomery, or if Boston finally realizes, hey, we're out of this, maybe Nick Pivetta. He's been pretty damn good lately for the Red Sox. He had a really good outing last time. And I know Eli made a face there, but it's just the name that we haven't discussed, although I do think Boston won't sell. You're muted.
Oh,
I picked up Pivetta off waivers for my fantasy team, but not because I feel highly about him moving forward. That was just a temporary measure. Yeah, I would like them to aim a bit higher for somebody that is more consistent, and it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost, as we went through their farm system at this moment, like even for a rental, they're going to have to give up a significant prospect just to get a rental. But just one guy can make a pretty substantial difference considering the lack of alternatives at the moment. Yeah, so I am on board very much with the starting pitching being pretty essential. I just saw before we started the show, John Morosi reported that the Rays and the Astros were in on Michael Lorenzen, who his value is going up right now. So he didn't mention the Marlins, but I think he did mention other teams in addition to those two. So that's just like one of many names that are on the market to consider. And I think I'm cautiously optimistic that Kim is going to pull the trigger on a starter before we get to the deadline. But it's a crucial decision, and it is you don't know exactly what you're getting the rest of this year. It's trade deadline, as exciting as it is, and as important as we feel it is to make the push. It's not guaranteed to work, but I think considering how well this team has played for most of this year and the position that they're in, that they didn't feel they would be in, you need to do what it takes to take advantage. You owe it to the players on the team. You owe it to the fan base. And in Kim's case, you probably want to prove it to your owner as well, just to solidify your status moving forward. Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world for them to eventually pull the trigger on one of those. And it is good to see finally the rumors picking up and a few of the dominoes starting to fall.
Yeah.
Finally, right?
Yeah, I'll go to Marcel there. But before that, I want to give a quick shout out to Alex Carr, hopping on the stream, one of our favorite guests. We need you to come back. We need you on here again.
Philly series coming soon.
Philly series, come to Miami. But aside from that, Marcelo, I want to hear your maybe shopping list. We've heard starting pitchers, but are there any other positions you believe the Marlins need to make a trade for?
I think they need to go 3. Like, I don't want to be greedy, but they need 3. They need a bat, probably left side of the infield if they can get it. So a guy like Candelario. If they want to go a little bit more expensive, maybe Jake Berger from the White Sox. I think that's a guy that gives you a lot of pop and gives you something different that you don't have right now. But you also need to get a righty bullpen arm and an SP. Where do you think they're going to spend most of the prospects on? I think they'll depend on controllable on the years that you're going to look at. Probably is going to be the bat if they want to, because I don't think they need to go for a controllable starting pitcher, to be honest.
I agree.
They like next year they're going to have a lot of pitching. Eater's going to come back if they don't move him. You're going to have Meyer coming back. You're going to have Fulton coming back. So there's going to be a lot of pitching there. But I think the Candelario would be my guy to go for the bat. And I'd go a rental SP, like a number 4, number 5 guy to hold the fort back until Eury comes back. And I'd go for a top-notch righty reliever, to be honest. And I'll kind of call back here Romeo and get his guy Justin Lawrence, because I really think he's good. There's another guy on the Tigers called Jason Foley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he has some good numbers, and I don't think they want to keep bullpen arms there and sell mode completely. So maybe that could be another guy to look at.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit who we have on screen now. Candelario. Kevin, this is your boy. This is your No, but talk to us a little bit about Candelario, because he's just kind of just had a monster season this season with the Nats after not getting re-signed by the Tigers. What have you seen from Candelario? That is your boy, Kev. That's your boy.
That's not my boy. That's Eli's boy. Eli wrote about Candelario. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The Tigers literally dumped this guy off their team basically, and the Nationals picked him up for fairly cheap. And you have to be very happy with the production. I mean, the Nationals have to be very happy with the production they've gotten from him. The Savant metrics don't look very nice, but I mean, he's pumping 15 homers. He gives you a lot of flexibility at third base. I think that's what he would bring. It would let you sit Gene Segura out. It would let you kind of play Candelario more and give you more opportunities with that left side of the infield. I really do like Jeremy Candelario as an option for Miami.
Something about him. He trains with Arraez in the offseason.
He does.
And with Nelson Cruz. So they're really tight. So if you wanna also have your star hitter a little bit happy, you could also go this guy. And I think he'd be good at the clubhouse too.
Yeah, there was a piece in the Athletic today by Jim Bowden that described Candelario as a perfect fit for Miami. Like you mentioned, the left side of that infield. And he seems to think that all it would take on Miami's end would maybe someone like Jacob Miller, middle tier prospect from Miami, and to go over to Washington, get 2 months of Jeremy Candelario, hopefully a third month. And that should,
Well, we should note that Jim Bowden's mixed history in terms of these projected trades, it's kind of infamous. I think a surprising number of people will remember from 4.5 years ago when he pitched this idea of sending Real Muto to the Astros for Tony Kemp and Josh James, and that was the whole package for Jay. And I mean, as it plays out, that wouldn't have been all that much worse than what they got. But I'm just saying, at the time, in terms of how he values these players, it could be slightly different than reality. I do think that is like a realistic best case scenario. I think that could happen because at the end of the day, he is a rental and he's a player that he's been good this year, but as recently as last year, he was more of a replacement level guy. So there's some volatility. A big reason why I like him is you see the brightest red on him is his defense is outs above average at third base. He's playing great defense at third. It is his natural position. So at the very least, I think it's going to be more power and it's going to be better defense than Segura, even if the batting average comes down, even at the on base. You don't know exactly how that looks the rest of the season. I think he's going to be a much better player. And the fact that he can fake it at first base as well. We never know what day Garrett Cooper is going to suffer his latest unlucky injury. They might need more spots to fill over there. And then at the end of the day, even though he's a pending free agent, I feel like he's one of those players that is in that range where you wouldn't totally rule out the possibility of the Marlins actually re-signing him in free agency. He's not a superstar player. He's not somebody that is, even though age-wise he's in a good spot, I don't think he would be in a position to command a particularly long deal. So he's somebody that if things go a certain way, and if Jorge Soler, for example, leaves and they have more wiggle room in their payroll, and Candelario, if they decide to move Segura back to, I don't know, depending on what they do next year positionally, they put Segura at second and Arraez at first, they want to keep Candelario. Like there's a scenario where they make this trade and they end up, actually having him around even beyond this year as well. So, it all depends exactly on what type of compensation the Nets are demanding for him.
And that's what I wanted to go to. I mean, when you think about Candelario, he fallen. Please no Gleyber Torres. Candelario falls into that price range for Miami, and that's I think what stands out. What stands out about him over the others that we've mentioned, the Bellingers, the Montgomerys, the Marcus Stroman's, that he's actually in the price range where Miami could re-sign him if they think he was productive for them, in his hopefully 3 months with the team. And the last name I wanted to mention before we move on, and I don't know if Isaac has another one, but it is Brent Rooker. I think Brent Rooker would be a nice fit for Miami. You put him in the middle of the order. Garrett Cooper likely could be out. He could play first base. And if you want, you could try to get Paul Blackburn in the mix too. That would give you a pitcher who's going to eat up innings. And eventually you could bring back Yuri and you would have Blackburn and Yuri kind of mix it up in there. I do like that possibility. I mentioned JP Sears a while ago, but he has a lot of control left. And
I think for those guys, Kevin.
Huh?
I'm going to trade for Blackburn and Rooker if you had to put both of them into a deal.
I'm mentioning it as an option. Obviously,
okay.
I don't think that's what I want, but it's an option because they're going to sell. And they want very young prospects, is what you could assume.
And just to enlighten everyone on Rooker. He obviously had that crazy month of April, but since what is it here? May 21st, he's batting 187 and OPSing just over 600. So I don't know how good of a player this would be and how much of a game changer it would be for the Marlins offense.
I will say it's a big risk. I will say
not a just a.
Well, I mean, think of it like this, Isaac. This is his first year where he's been good.
It's his rookie year, right?
What's his first? Yeah, his first full year. I think he had other cups of coffee.
Yeah,
I do want to take this opportunity.
I think I might like this one.
I agree, Alex. I agree. They should have let him go.
Yeah, I do want to point out, I told Kevin in our private chat when Rooker was hot at the start of the year, I said by the deadline he'd be like a below average hitter, that he had no chance of sustaining this. And even though, as Isaac mentioned, he's come back down to earth a lot, overall he's still having a productive year, very certainly by the standards of the team that he is on when you adjust for the ballpark he's played in. He's comfortably above average as a hitter, but I don't like the fit at all, especially considering what else they have to do at this deadline. I'd revisit this in the offseason.
Would you guys have liked Fujinami on the Marlins?
No.
I know he just got traded.
He's interesting. He was pitching very well quietly over like the month leading into the deadline, so that has to be noted. For a guy that had so much issue with his control for much of the year, all of a sudden he doesn't walk anybody. So that really intrigues me. And I think the quality of his stuff is as good as anybody that's going to be available right now. I think the Marlins need to fall back on more heavier guys with longer major league track records with the reliever that they go for. So I wasn't surprised to see him traded. I wasn't surprised to see that he had positive value, even as a guy with an 8-something ERA. But yeah, I don't think he exactly fit what the Marlins are looking for in terms of bullpen upgrades.
Yeah, that said, they didn't give him that much either. The Orioles, like they really didn't. So that's why I think they should go for a bullpen arm ASAP.
For the Marlins draft,
you don't really have to give anything for one. I remember in the 2021, what was his name? Curtis. He was good for us. And what did we get for him? He had 5 years of control, and we got Peyton Henry. So like bullpen arms, man, bullpen arms. They're cheap because there's so many good ones. So I don't see why they don't go for one as soon as possible.
It's hard to identify what's the more pressing need with this ball club, because obviously it's pitching, but is it the starting pitching or is it the relief pitching? Because you talk about right-handed relievers or lack thereof. I still have hope for Floro this year. I still think he can be a serviceable, right-handed option out of the pen. 7th, 8th inning, maybe. But if that's your best right-handed reliever, which he is at the moment, JT Chagua has not, like Eli said, has not been missing bats at the rate that we thought he would be. Still very serviceable, but still, you don't have that lockdown right-handed reliever. And that is such a pressing need for this ball club, especially when you're facing teams like the Cardinals, when all your hitters are right-handed. You have to throw out Scott, you have to throw out Puck, and you have to throw out Oker. You need a dominant right-hander. I like Kendall Graveman. I think he's making a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken. But there are, like you guys said, there's a myriad of options in Major League Baseball right now, and that probably wouldn't cost too much, whether it's 2-month rental or with some control left.
Yeah, Maldonado's injury killed us. I think that was the guy. He would have been the guy, to be honest. Yeah. He was rocking AAA.
Whoa. All
right. I think
I'm a big fan of yours, LMF, but holy shit. Wow. Okay.
We'll have I think digest that as we head into the break. And then after the break, we might do a little more shopping list. We'll talk about the draftee signings of Kemp Alderman and Noble Meyer. And then we'll preview a little of this Rockies series and really what entails and what would happen if the Marlins get swept again. Stay tuned. What was that? Eli, did the payment not go through? Did they?
No. In fact, they very recently officially extended for the latest month. So we need to give them some full screen love for
Ooh,
Yeah.
LaPop, LAPOP. Check them out on Instagram, Twitter, and their Doral location from
There you
10
go.
to 7. Oof. All right, and we are back. I think just digested that delicious take, the delicious take of DLC having more upside than Christian Yelich.
I'm gonna make Isaac mad with that other one.
Oh man.
But I think from that, I think it's time to talk about some young studs, some young guns, in Noble Meyer and Kemp Alderman. We can start off with Noble Meyer signing at $4.5 million. I believe that's 1.3 under slot for the team, really, or 1 million under slot, excuse me. So really saving money there. And then signing Kemp Alderman a few hours later. For I believe 1.3, his slot value 1.8, so saving around $400,000 there. Total 1.3, $1.4, which hopefully goes to Thomas White and Tristan Dietrich. Isaac signing both guys under slot, but also Noble Meyer signing him severely under slot as a prep arm. What did you see that? How do you like that signing for the Marlins? Signing him $1 million under.
Yeah, obviously delicious. I think Eli touched on it really well in our unfiltered episode that Miami said he might fall if we don't get you here. So I think Noble
That
was
was me. I said that.
okay, Kevin. That was you. Sorry.
Give me credit.
Jesus Christ. He was willing to go a bit under slot, and I do think they will have enough money, definitely to give very lucrative offers to both White and Dietrich. And Dietrich, we've heard mixed reports that he's going to go back to FIU, that he wants to go to school. He's said it himself. We have other sources from Kevin Burrell telling us that he wants to go back to FIU. I find that just hard to believe and hard to agree with. As a kid coming out of high school, you have an opportunity to make, I think it's going to be north of 1.2 at least. I think it could go up to 1.4, 1.5 for him, assuming the rest goes to Thomas White. In my personal opinion, it's a very tough decision to turn down that amount of money to go to FIU of all places. No disrespect to FIU. I am a fellow Panther, but come on, it's not exactly Vanderbilt that you're going to here. So, I'm cautiously optimistic that they'll be able to sign all 21 of their draft picks, which hasn't been done recently. They missed out on Ivan Melendez, and last year it was Evan Crest that they couldn't sign. So I think this year they can do it all.
And he went to a smaller school than FIU.
Yeah, Jacksonville something, and he's
went to a smaller school.
Yeah.
Yeah, to clarify, Thomas White at this hour, we don't think he has officially signed. We can break the news that tomorrow Marlins are going to introduce Noble Meyer at the ballpark and Kemp Alderman. Yeah, both of those are totally done. So they're going to be at the ballpark, and they would have liked to have the middle guy in there, Thomas White, make the appearance as well. But he is using his full right to negotiate every dollar he can leading up to Tuesday's signing deadline. So that will get done, but it's just a matter of exactly what the number is. And as our super subscriber Savento laid out here, it depends exactly how much Thomas White is getting. That determines how much they can offer Dietrich as well. We expect White to get well above his slot value, somewhere in the $3 million range. As the fact that he was the second best prep arm available in this draft class, only behind Noble Meyer. So even though not quite as highly rated as an overall prospect, he's not really that far below him in terms of what he's valued at and what it would take him away from his commitment to Vanderbilt. So we'll find out very soon. And again, really the only question is Dietrich at this point. They're going to offer him a big number, even a bigger number than Evan Crest last year. And we'll see whether he takes it or not. And if they don't, there's some creative things that they can do. But we'll take this one series at a time. We hope we have clarity on this just in time for Tuesday's stream, because that's almost exactly when the deadline passes. I think it's 5 p.m. on Tuesday. So on the next stream, we should know for sure exactly how this played out.
Yeah, I want to hear what Marcelo has to say. Looking back at it now, the reaction here is when Noble Meyer got drafted. What did you think of that draft selection now that the weeks have passed, now that these guys are signing? What do you think of, let's go to the two picks that are coming to Miami, Noble Meyer and Kemp Alderman? What do you think of those picks now a few weeks after the draft?
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys on this one. I did not follow this draft much pre-draft. because I've been very unmotivated with the last drafts of this team. So after last draft, I was like, okay, let's just see what they do, and let's just wait for them for a couple. Let's just wait till these kids start playing, because I gave a lot of prep to the 2021 one, and I was really happy with their draft, and it's turned out not that good. So I didn't do that much prep on this one, but like reading what everyone's saying, all the big guns, what Ian Smith, what Aram and the guys from BA and Pipeline, they're all saying that the Marlins won the draft, or top 5 best drafts. So I'll pivot to them, and let's just see what I saw from Alderman. I liked the power that he's showing. He's showing some really good exit velos, and I like that they're going for pitchers. To be honest, I think just grab what you can mold and what you can have, and then just trade them if you're gonna need some bats, because they've been good at getting some diamonds in the rough, like Dane Myers, for example. So maybe that's the goal.
Yeah, I think it was good to see a change in strategy from DJ Svilik. You've seen, his first draft was in 2019. Went with JJ Bleday. It hasn't worked out yet, even though he is hot for Oakland right now. He's scorching the ball as we speak. And then, last year going with the industry safe pick in Jacob Berry. Everyone thought he was a very safe bet to at least have a decently high floor, and he has just been a disaster, to say the least, on both sides of the ball. And we were worried that because of what he did last year, he was going to try and do the same thing, go with the industry safe pick in Jacob Wilson, or Jacob Gonzalez was the other one. The other Jacob, either of those Jacobs wouldn't have been the right move. And he totally threw us a curveball, as he said in the press conference with us.
He said knuckleball.
Then he said knuckleball. Kevin stopped.
Yeah.
Then he went knuckleball, and he went with 2 pitchers back to back with their first 2 picks, and then he went with Kemp Alderman. So I like to see it. Do what you know how to do best, is develop arms, and this is something that this organization does very, very well. And you know what? If you're gonna get your offense by trades, like trading for Luis Ariz and signing your Jorge Solers and signing your bats, so be it. Just develop your arms, because clearly they have not done a good job of developing bats whatsoever. The only one drafted in the last 4 years that's on the major league roster has been Nick Fortes, I believe. So it's not a good look. So I think it was a really, really good draft, all things considered.
Yeah, same question to you, Kevin. I want to hear your rundown. Give us a little bit details into Dietrich there. Not Derek, but Tristan. What have you seen from him? You mentioned him maybe not signing with the Marlins, potentially going to FIU, but talk to us a little bit on his player profile, a little bit on Dietrich.
I mean, he fits the Marlins mold. I mean, pretty tall guy, mid-90s, lengthy lefty. It was a great pick for Miami, and FIU definitely got a good player in their recruiting class. And I've spoken to him. I've spoken to FIU's coach, and from what I've been told is that he does intend to stick with FIU, bearing obviously any change. They've been in constant communication, not only him but his family as well. And it's been obviously you'll be able to hear it in a couple hours. I think less than an hour that the podcast would drop about with his coach, and he definitely talks about Dietrich, and it was a great pick for Miami, especially in the round that they got him. Obviously, I think Isaac made it clear that he's going to be offered north of $1 million, maybe even more, depending on how much they do end up signing Thomas White for. I have a feeling they may have to go a bit over slot for White, given that he was supposed to be a first rounder or a mid to late first round pick, and he was selected in the comp round. So pretty late in the comp round, I would say, or fairly in the middle of that comp round. So yeah, we'll see. I really like the player Miami would hopefully bring in Dietrich. I mean, I'll still get to cover him either way, but yeah, great. I like the pick, and it fits Miami's mold. I think that's the way we could put it, and that's how it's been for almost all these pitchers that Miami took.
Well, what's the percentage that the Marlins signed him, Kevin?
I would say just under 50%, like 45.
Really?
Wow.
That's better than I expected.
Pretty high. It's pretty high. Yeah. I mean, if Miami offers him over more than $1 million, I don't see him not taking it.
Yeah. So I think with that, going off a little bit in the draft class, we can preview the series that everyone is just eagerly anticipating for us to talk about between the two behemoths of baseball, two class act baseball teams, as the Rockies and the Marlins. We're doing this a day early for reasons, but you could say primarily because a certain Argentine player playing tomorrow in Messi having his debut, and that will definitely have most of the eyeballs watching that game compared to the Marlins and the Rockies series. But we could start off with this one. Eli, Marlins, Rockies. What are we seeing with the Rockies? Well, what can we expect?
Oh boy. I think they are turning into the team that we thought they would be. They are just I wouldn't say not a rebuilding team. They're kind of just a rudderless team, a directionless team. This is the this is about the least desirable franchise there is right now around baseball. They are only 18 and a half back of their division, but they're a team that just does not have a lot of standout individuals on either side of the ball, especially on the pitching side. Even when you adjust for the rigors of Coors Field, they are depleted in terms of starting pitching at this stage. Some unlucky injuries, most recently Kyle Freeland's got an ugly injury. I think got hit by a liner that came back and got him in a bad spot. Oh no, he actually slipped. I think he slipped when trying to field the ball. Either way, the rotation is depleted at this point, and their lineup doesn't have a lot of standout guys either. I'd say one of the bright spots for them has been Nolan Jones. This is a guy that was kind of a surplus prospect for the Guardians, and they traded him for not much. And Nolan Jones, as you can see, is 114 WRC plus. He's a good athlete. He strikes out way too much, so he's coming back down to earth. Even him. And Elias Diaz is somebody that we circled early on in trade season, almost at the very beginning of trade season. We said Elias Diaz, that guy checks all the boxes the Marlins want. And since then, he has won his All-Star Game MVP. He did hit that timely home run. He just has not hit very much outside of that over basically the last 2 months. He was incredible when the Marlins played against him in Colorado in late May. Mm-hmm. And then since then, come back all the way down to earth. As you can see, you adjust for Coors Field, it's an 84 WRC plus, and that is skewed pretty heavily towards being at home. So in this series, I think you can write him off as not an automatic out, but something kind of close to that. At least that's what his season splits show thus far. Yeah, so this team is they're in rough shape. They're one of the few teams in the National League that is fully out of it. And yet, historically, they're a team that even when they're out of it, they don't necessarily sell. They are a very hard to read team. Their front office is unusual. So even though they are out of it, it's unclear exactly how many of these players are really on the market.
Yeah, and with this team, just looking at the batting, you see some guys there who or are not there. Excuse me, guys like Chris Bryant, Charlie Blackmon, who you expect. Obviously, Charlie Blackmon older. Chris Bryant has not been what the Rockies have hoped for when signing that contract. What did you guys think of Chris Bryant? How has he been with the Rockies, and maybe why is it not working out? You would think a guy who had a fantastic career with the Cubbies to go into Coors Field to hit at least 30 home runs a season. And this season, looking at him, let me go get his stats. I know he's been injured, but it's just not what's been hoped for. 8 home runs, 23 RBIs, only a 715 OPS. What's up with Chris Bryant?
Yeah, I think you said it. Injuries. They've hurt him. Only played 42 games in his first season with the Rockies, and I mean now he's been playing more, and he's not been very good. I think that's the best way we could put it. You would think that with the Coors Field effect, he would be hitting bombs, but it's not been the case, and he's not striking out a lot either. He's walking at his usual rate, you could say, and aside from that, just not getting on base crazy amount like he has in the past, and yeah, it's just weird situation. I think you can really put injuries on that for Mr. Chris Bryant.
Yeah, just something there to see what happened with Bryant. And going back a little bit to those names, there was one name that really stood out to me and someone that could potentially be a fit for the Marlins. It has been in the rumor mill a bit. Randall Grutchik, 31 years old, having a really great season so far with a 300 average, could play a little bit of defense. And you mentioned the Marlins do need a little help in the batting area. Well, what do you guys think of Randall Grutchik? He's having a really great season so far, and can he fit that mold of in the Marlins lineup? Could he be the the secret sauce, the missing puzzle piece?
It's funny because I mentioned him, I believe, a couple years back. It may have been when he got that off season he got traded. I mentioned him and I got flamed on Twitter because I've heard he's not a very pleasable person. He's not very good of a good person, but he's a good baseball player. And I've never thought of him as a fit. And he actually does hit fairly well outside of course, but I think they have bigger needs than the outfield right now, to be honest with you. I think Justin Lawrence is the target to look at from the Rockies.
Yeah. Not Elias Diaz. You're not an Elias Diaz guy, Kevin?
I was for like a week and then that left very quickly.
Was the week All-Star week?
No. It was, I think it was that Rocky series when Miami went up there.
Marcelo, tell me a little bit what you like from the Rockies and maybe potential fits for the Marlins.
What I like from the Rockies is they're really bad and we need to sweep them. That's what I like about them, man. No, seriously, I don't think they have like much we can look at. Maybe McMahon, but he has a big contract, and I don't think they'd move him. He'd be a guy I look at, but I don't think he fits the small strikeout rate and bat to ball philosophy that the Marlins have. Nolan Jones, like I think Eli was saying, would be a guy that I'd like to look at because of the power potential, but I don't think they're gonna move him either. He has a lot of control years. And from the pitching side, Jake Bird or Lawrence, I think both could be good additions. I really like Lawrence, to be honest. He's a guy that closes games and he goes from Coors to Miami, from a hitter's park to a pitcher's park. I think he'd be the guy that if gun to my head, I don't want to leave from Miami in this series. Keep Justin Lawrence in LDP.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest McMahon fan, I will say. He kind of falls into that. You're pretty good at cores and not really away from it. So
well, at least his defense travels. He is a really good defensive third baseman. And even it is a long contract, but it is, to this point, it's a fairly efficient deal. That's an off-season thing. If the Rockies do this off-season, they take a step back. They're like, we lost 96 games again. Maybe we can actually rebuild. Charlie Blackmon is finally gone after this year as well. So if they do, that's an off-season thing with him. The guys that will actually be available, I think Brent Suter might be hurt at the moment. I know Brad Hand is available, but with this team, this Marlins team, they really need more help right side of the pen than the left side.
Let me ask you guys, sorry to cut you off, Eli. You're mentioning names. One guy who's not there, shares a common name with me, Daniel Bard. What have you guys? I know he had a contract going, I believe, let me see here, 2 years, $19 million signed through 2024. You look at him this season with a 2.14 ERA and 33 innings. What about a guy like that? I know he's older. I believe he's 36, 37 years old, but he is a righty. You mentioned that the Marlins do not have righties. He fits the mold. He's a veteran. He's a guy who's been there and done that. But what do you guys see from Daniel Bard? Is that an option that could potentially fit what the Marlins are looking for? He could play well this second half of the season. And then the Marlins bring him in again. They can. Let me see if he has an option. I don't think so. I think it's just straight to 2024. So, what do you guys believe on Daniel Bard?
I don't hate it, but they extended him, so I don't know what they definitely feel like he's part of their team next season if they made that decision to extend him. Unless all of a sudden they're like, all right, like Eli said, we're gonna lose 90-something games and may as well try to get some value for Bard, who has actually been pretty good. I did not know he had been this good this season, and it's nice to see.
Yeah.
He's been lucky.
Yeah, he is. You see the ERA is a 2.14 ERA. That is outstanding. His expected ERA is 5.35. It is, I think, by far the biggest gap you'll see out of any qualified reliever between their actual and expected results. The walk rate, as you see, that is the command is just gone away. That has been the trend out of a lot of his career. But even compared to last year, he's getting very fortunate. He's not getting chases the way that he was. There have been times this year where his velo is down significantly from where it was, although I think it is kind of getting back to closer where it used to be. It just hasn't he's getting the results, but it is a ticking time bomb. It seems like it's just hard to imagine him being trustworthy down the stretch. And the money is a big part of it as well. He's getting the results, but it becomes a bad contract if he regresses even to what somewhat of the way to his underlying stats as well. Yeah, I don't see him being particularly attractive to other teams at this deadline, not even the Marlins. But yeah, it's worth bringing up just because the results are there. It's hard to argue with the results. Just watching him pitch, I don't get the sense that he's the guy you want in the most important situations.
Yeah.
Even a guy like that at Coors Field, known batter's ballpark, having those type of results, bring him into Lone Depot, the pitcher's ballpark. You don't believe that he can have that effect where he might even pitch better because he is at a more pitcher-friendly ballpark compared to Coors?
Well, his biggest issue isn't the ballpark. His biggest issue is sometimes he just doesn't know where the ball is going. He's walked 26 guys in 34 innings and 4 hit by pitches and 2 wild pitches. That's the issue. He has more walks this year than he had all of last year in about half as many innings. And that's going to travel with him, I don't think. So that's the main concern. You could live with, if it was one thing, if you can consistently count on him to throw strikes or to miss bats, even when he's not throwing strikes, and the missing bats part has gone away this year as well. So I would just totally stay away from him. I hope that he has a good finish to his year. And then another guy that you talk about in the offseason with the Rockies, if they want to unload some money, he could be the 2024 Matt Barnes trade. He could be that same sort of deal where he gets to the end of this year and he's available and the Marlins just flip something small in return. But I don't, as a deadline one, I just wouldn't trust him.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys a question before we head into the starting pitchers and then prediction time. What happens if the Marlins get swept again?
I think you're looking at a very different live stream vibe on, I believe, Tuesday. So I would say that. I think we'll be talking about the possibility that Miami could sell. Miami could look into selling some pieces. Obviously, I think Garrett Cooper, Joey Wendell, who are on expiring deals. I believe Flores on an expiring deal, but he has little to no value right now with how not good he's been. And you're looking to acquire prospects to buff up the farm system. I think that's what the conversation will be. And I know we had spoken about selling high on DLC, but that's an off-season thing. So we'll get into that in the off-season. But yes, it'll be a very different conversation that what we're having right now. Instead of talking, I think, about Cody Bellinger, we'll be talking about prospects.
Well, I guess some people, some people will. I'm a little bit more measured. I don't think there's anything that could happen this weekend that would make them sellers, in my opinion. Nothing. I don't think even if they lose 30-0 in those 3 games combined and they get swept, I don't think that one series does it. But yeah, obviously they have to win some games between now and the deadline. And this is the most winnable series. It's not going to get any easier than this with the way that things line up. So yeah, I wouldn't be catastrophic, but it would be borderline catastrophic if they did get swept. It is crucial to pull out some sort of win here against a team that is so extremely beatable.
Yeah. And we could finish off talking about the starting pitching matchups for this series, including the one for tomorrow with Braxton Garrett. And then it looks like probably going by Fangraphs, Peter Lambert for the Colorado Rockies. If you don't know that name, I don't either. I just found it right now. 6.29 ERA, 1.63 WHIP, 34 innings so far this season for the Rockies in 15 games. How do you guys project Brax against this Rockies? Well, I would say the Rockies lineup, but it's most likely going maybe by, let's see, their last game again. Let's see. So you'll face guys like Chris Bryant, Charlie Blackmon, CJ Cron, which could be
and Grichuk, your guy Grichuk will be in there against a lefty. If it's against a lefty, they're going to stack against righties. We have I know we have a series MVP pick from our super subscriber about Profar. Even though his year, he's been kind of a disappointment as a player. But the Marlins, we talked quite a bit about Profar as a Marlins potential fit in the offseason, but he hasn't really done very much with that opportunity. We have Braxton, he's coming off a shaky outing. So he's been so consistent for most of this year. You would expect him to bounce back. That very first game is one that I'm watching pretty closely. And I guess you have to watch the second game pretty closely too, because it seems like they're going bullpen game on Saturday. No announced starter yet. And they could have Luzardo starting there on regular rest, and they're not doing it. Instead, they're pushing him back and putting this murky bullpen day in the middle of it. So that is, they're not putting themselves in a great position to sweep the series, in my opinion.
It's probably because of Eddie, right? I don't think I think they'd want to give him a little bit more of a window since he's coming back. Just my 2 cents, probably.
Yeah, that's what they would. If they were going to be a temporary 4-man rotation, it'd be Eddie on regular rest as well. And I guess we'll find out. When we'll hear from Skip on Friday tomorrow, he'll probably elaborate more on the pitching decisions and what exactly they're going to do. As the last turn of the rotation, it was Okert and Cueto and George Soriano. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that combo this time around. But yeah, we should mention Cueto. So Cueto didn't pitch during the Cardinals series because he had thrown so much on Sunday. But we'll probably see Cueto again at some point during this series and see if he can build upon his stunning return. Can he build upon that? I am skeptical. But he is there, and we will see if there's a situation for him to do his thing.
Yeah.
Probably Saturday we see Cueto.
You don't think, no, I'm going to say, bring up Yuri for Colorado.
No, unfortunately not. I don't know why Fangraphs just slaps Yuri on there as they feel like it, but no, he is not starting on Saturday. Unless tomorrow, all of a sudden, we see a tall guy walk into the clubhouse, but no.
I saw Yuri yesterday in Pensacola. He is indeed there. Ooh. He was just chilling. He was just leaning against the camera well. He wasn't even in the main dugout, but I saw him. I think do I have a picture of him? Maybe I took a screenshot. I'll see if I did take a screenshot on this computer. I think I took it on my other screen, so I don't actually have it. But he is alive. He is well. I don't know if he's been facing live batters of any kind. He is not listed to start any of the upcoming games for Pensacola the rest of this week. So we think that's still going to be several more weeks until he's considered for a return.
That tall guy, is it Yuri Perez or is it most likely Johan Oviedo?
No, bro. Johan
Quesada. See,
oh my God.
I already
Oviedo's
my
on the
head.
Pirates.
He's on the Pirates?
Oviedo's on the Pirates. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's we could use him. The Marlins can use him. But I know what our audience wants is for us to go to prediction time, and that is what we're going to do. So, Eli,
this is prediction time.
It's time.
And it is prediction time.
It is time for predictions. Sorry, I just had to turn on my light here. As always, for prediction time, you're going to give us the series winner. Could be a sweep. Could be 2 games. Marlins, Rockies, MVP. Could be from either team, any player, pitcher, batter. And your predictions do not have to line up. You can go the Marlins win the series and have a Rockies player for MVP. As you look at some of our beautiful super subscribers who have made their predictions. And a lot of Marlins wins, except for Rodrigo, who looks like he wants the Marlins to be sellers with a 2-1 Colorado win, Jorgensen Profar MVP. And a lot of sweeps. I have not seen this many sweeps for a series in quite a while. Jorge Soler, Luis Arias. And if you're ready, Eli, I'm ready to start with our lead-off picker, Mr. Kevin Barral.
I'm going to say Marlins take 2 out of 3. And the MVP, I'll say Jesus Sanchez. I think he's going to have a good weekend for Miami, hit a couple bombs, and we'll see how it goes. But
all right, next up, Isaac Azu.
I'm going to say the Marlins take 2 out of 3. and it's going to be Jorge Soler. Going to be my MVP.
Ooh. All right. Next up, Marcelo de Vivo.
Okay, so I'm gonna go as an optimist here, which probably means that we're gonna lose it. But Marlins sweep. Jesus Sanchez is the best bet.
All right. I'll go. I have the Marlins taking the series a sweep. Let's go with a sweep. I think they're going to sweep it against the Rockies 3-0. In my MVP, I'm going to scroll and pick somebody. Let's go with Luis Arias. Luis Arias, MVP. Maybe safety of choices, but we'll see what happens there. But next up, Eli Sussman.
I had the Marlins winning 2 out of 3 in this series, and I'm going to choose MVP, somebody that has not been mentioned during this entire show. We have not mentioned Dane Myers during this entire show, even though he continues to be awesome. I love the quality of his at-bats and his swings. He hit into some bad luck this past series in St. Louis, but I think that evens out during these next few days. Dane Myers makes a difference. Marlins get back on track. 2 out of 3.
All right. So before we go, I want to ask everyone, how are the vibes really quickly for this Colorado Rockies series? How is everyone feeling before we go?
Swell, as Isaac would say.
Oh, yeah. Where's that soundbite? Vibes are high soundbite.
The vibes are high, and that's the way I would put it.
It's going to be a nice atmosphere with the draft picks being introduced. There's also a second unrelated event happening at the ballpark pregame that people will be interested in, but we'll keep that private. And there's also the Heat crossover thing, and then and it's all going to be overshadowed, we think, by Messi's debut. Generally, I'll be curious to see exactly. That's the one soccer game I've not watched Inter Miami play a full game ever, so maybe I will have that on a second screen though as this is going on. That is no doubt very intriguing, and that takes some of the pressure off the Marlins. Maybe that's all they need. But during the time of year where baseball consumes everything for better and for worse, and but now soccer, and then pretty soon NFL training camp, all that stuff kind of eats into it as well. And maybe that's what the Marlins need.
All right. If anyone else has anything else to talk about before we go, all right. For Daniel, myself, for Kevin, Eli, Isaac, Marcelo de Vivo, this is FOF Live presented by La Pop, LAPOP, and always go fish.